components of the nuclear program were capable of being restarted within months. This is a departure from what Donald Trump claimed, that the program has been obliterated. The report also said that much of the Iran stockpile of enriched uranium was moved before the strikes, which destroyed little of the nuclear material. Let me straight away introduce my guest, then I'm going to play out the bites of Donald Trump and the people who claim that the program does not exist. I'm joined by Bharat Karnad, Emeritus Professor, Center for Policy Research, and Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan, Defense and Strategy Expert. So let me straight away go to Mr. Karnad. Sir, do you think that the Fordow has been destroyed?
No, of course not. I think there is no expectation it would be, because as you're perhaps aware, the GBU-57, the massive ordnance penetrator, the depth it could go to destroy whatever was about 90 meters. The Fordow centrifuges are at 300 meters depth. So there's no question. I mean, this was published by many publications and so on. So Trump's boast was, his usual hyperbole and exaggeration that he's prone to, and shouldn't be taken seriously, simply because I think it was more a political statement of success of some kind, not the success in decimating, as he put it, or destroying in toto the Iranian nuclear program, which, as everybody, and I think the DIA is right, is going to get back on track very soon, because there's another facility that's not been attacked, that's been, again, built underground and fairly immune to any kind of attack. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Iranian centrifuges getting underway, and this time on a more serious weapons note. Despite whatever Mossad penetration there is, that is really weakening the Iranian system.
So do you think that this will change the Iranian nuclear posture?
Well, look, I think they cannot. I mean, this is the perils of a threshold state. You're at a threshold where you haven't crossed into actual weapons possession, but you're nearly there, and which is the case with the Iranian weapons program. They tarried too long. They were with the kind of agreement they signed with President Obama. They sort of stayed away from actually crossing the threshold. Now that they find, and once Trump came in and discarded the agreement, abrogated it, they had very little time to switch to a weapons mode. And this is where you kind of become very vulnerable for a threshold state, wherein you cannot do very much in terms of achieving the weapons that you need to get a deterrent, and yet you are left vulnerable. So I think the Iranians were expecting the attack, and that's why, as you have said, they moved their enriched uranium stock to a safe place. And again, this was known. So in one sense, this was a fairly staged show for both sides to claim some modicum of success. Because as you're aware, after the attack, the Iranians staged a kind of attack in Qatar, and the Iranians gave the Qataris a warning that we're going to strike you. So the whole thing is a bit of a stage show. Basically, in a sense that the Iranians keep their uranium stocks, the enriched uranium stocks. They are still where they were in terms of capability. Of course, again, the decapitation attacks that happened with the Israeli Mossad taking out their leading scientists and so on, and this has been ongoing for the last 30-odd years, that has always put them back a bit. But there's enough of they're very bright people, Iranians, and they have their technical expertise down where they can, in fact, convert what they have in terms of enriched uranium into a weapon, some kind of a weapon that will explode when it's required.
Okay. General Chauhan, do you think that the American story has gone awry? And my second connected question to you is, have Americans done Iraq on Iran the way they went after Saddam Hussein, the so-called WFD program in 2003, sir?
Good evening. How we, good evening. Actually, I was just reading about Tulsi Gabbard, and I was reading what she said, and she said that there is no credible evidence that Iran is anywhere near a nuclear weapon. This she echoed of the U.S. intelligence community, who said that they are not near that. Trump had ignored that particular thing because Israel told him to told him and leaked certain documents which people anyway see are false. So I'm not too certain where Iran is on this situation, and I've got no doubt, Karthik, that they were doing what they did for Iraq. They were trying to find WMD here. They're trying to find nuclear weapons. I don't think Iran's that close by. Maximum that they would have enriched would be 60%. It still takes a very long time to reach there. And there has been a fair amount of destruction in most of their nuclear sites. As Bharat said, the reactors are much lower, 90 meters below, and it will take much more bombing to actually reach that point, which will be very difficult. But the end point is that Iran will take a great amount of time to come to any kind of weapons grade, nuclear weapons grade equipment. And I don't think they're close by at the present moment.
General Chauhan, because it's a homegrown program, it's not like you can do an OSIRAC again and again.
Exactly. So when it's a homegrown program, you also have to see what are their capabilities. We've continuously, the Americans have been looking at this capability of the Iranians, and they have come to conclusion that they were far away. But what Trump relied on was the Israeli intelligence leaks of Netanyahu's 2018 Iran nuclear archives. There is also a great deal of political and ideological motivation here. Trump wanted to undo Obama's legacy and show strength in the Northeast, in the Middle East. Now, Iran has resumed enrichment. They have reached to 2020 to 60% in 2021. The breakout time had dropped from 12 months to probably just weeks. But all this combined together is once again uncertain, set them back by a year or two. So it will take a long time for Iran to come back again. And the damage, if you look at what kind of damage the Israelis have done, they've done a fair amount of damage. And I think they're still very far away. Though, as Bharat says, the American bombing on the 3 nuclear sites was mainly a fixed match. They were also told that we're going to bomb you guys. And certain things have happened. There are leaks that they haven't really done all that they should have done or they could have done. But I feel Iran's still quite far away from any kind of nuclear weapon at the particular moment.
Mr. Karnad, a lot of articles came out. For example, one expert said that there's a difference between enrichment and weaponization, and Iran was only trying to enrich and threatened weaponization, and that's where the story went wrong. Is it correct?
Look, and I mentioned, I think, the perils of being a threshold state. Being a threshold state, then anybody can interpret whatever that means. If it's an adversarial sort of a situation, then someone can say they are almost onto a weapons route. If you believe the Iranians, then you say, well, no, they were more interested in running, civilian programs and so on. The fact is that, Tulsi Gabbard was right when she said that the Iranians, at least her intelligence, and she's the coordinator of national intelligence, which means she has coordinated some 17, 18 odd intelligence agencies and the immediate reports. And her conclusion that Iran was nowhere near is right. But technically, let me just say, reaching 62% enrichment means that it doesn't take very much more enrichment to reach weapon grade 92%. That's the point people by and large don't understand. 62 is kind of that stage where you then take off. The actual hexafluoride process that gets you into that 92% becomes very achievable in a very short time. Once you have 62% enriched uranium to start with as a feedstock. So, that has to be understood. It's true. All this depends how long the Iranians will take to convert what they have into an actual device in weaponizable form. Depends on how resolute and determined Tehran is now to get a weapon. And I would imagine that after these series of attacks by Mossad and the US, they'll be far more determined to have weapons that can, stand and be counted as a weapon, actually, rather than merely some kind of a physical device. Anything that will blow, that will explode, becomes a weapon. And as perhaps you may be aware, there is such a thing as even a failed weapon can be used as a radiation diffusion device. You can blow a subpar yield weapon and create havoc in the targeted country because you can spread radioactivity if you are determined to hurt the enemy state. And Israel is such a small country, and this is what I imagine Tel Aviv and the Mossad and Benjamin Netanyahu's the government would be most concerned about.
I've really run short of time, but what I really wanted to ask you, because I was reading your blog, Lesson in Context of India and the Operation Sindoor, and the something which I could absorb as a reader and an enthusiast and an admirer of your writing was that India's response could have been far more firm, even greater, allowing far more leeway to the Indian Armed Forces. But I'll take the closing comment and I'll come to this debate some other time to you, General Chauhan. That is there a lesson for India? General Chauhan, is there a lesson from India? What has happened in?
Yeah, of course, there's a lesson for India. There's a lesson for India in everything that happens. The issue is that India is now a declared nuclear power. So, as far as this is concerned, we are absolutely clear that we are a nuclear power and we do hold nuclear weapons. The issue about Iran is that even if they have they reach weapons grade uranium, to mate it to a missile will take an abnormally long time because they don't have the expertise or the capability at the present moment. So the lesson for India comes to the same issue again, that while we must safeguard our nuclear weapons, we must safeguard our nuclear capabilities, we also must make sure that Pakistan, though of course Pakistan is another declared nuclear power, but at the same time, if we are able to make sure that Pakistan is unable to use its weapons or to create a problem for them as we feel we've created during Operation Sindoor, would be something that we need to understand.
Thank you. I've really run short of time. Thank you both of you for joining me for this conversation. This is all I have in On Point today. I'll see you tomorrow with more On Points at the same time. Good night.
Who am I?
Nobody can crack that mystery.
There is a certain expectation of me.
That's the only contradiction.
Life itself is stranger than fiction.
I was a perfectly normal person born in an abnormal world.
I really didn't understand why is it different.
Just imagine a child who is bullied every day.
Boys school में कुछ लड़का लोग मेरे साथ sexual abuse किए.
मुझे तेरे बारे में सब पता है और मैं तेरा रेप कर लूँगा.
You also start to stigmatize.
अरे ये तो time pass है.
Sex doesn't come in the picture. Sex comes very late. Then there are man-made narratives.
Why do you walk like that? Why do you sway so much? So you can understand the trauma of a person who's trapped in a wrong body.
But nothing can bind life.
You have to